Talk Shoes.
Recorded live.
Welcome to Mr. Podcast with Claude
and Justin.
This is Dexter Podcast number 5. We're covering episodes 509, Teenage Wasteland, and 510, In the Beginning. So I'll start with a little recap of the episode, the big plot lines, and then we'll get into our reactions here. So Teenage Wasteland picks up from Jordan Chase being invested in helping Dexter with his motivational stuff. Maria painting the Santa Muerte screw up on Deb, and Manzone sort of getting a promotion. Liddy finding out that's RoboCop, by the way. Finally remembering his name.
Yeah, it's about time.
Yeah. Liddy finding out about Lumen and Dexter, then Dexter and Lumen killing Cole, then Dexter and Lumen realizing that Jordan Chase is involved. So the episode starts with Dexter working out with Jordan, and he sees that Jordan carries his vial of blood around, and he tries to get a sample of that. Aster and her friend Olivia break into Dexter's house, scaring Lumen. Harry appears to Dexter and tells him to send Aster and Olivia back home. Then, Aster gives Dexter crap about bringing in a new, quote, tenant so soon. Aster and Olivia end up missing when a white van is seen around their house. Police find the man's driver. It turns out to be Olivia's mom's boyfriend, Barry. The girls, who everyone thought was sort of abducted, end up finding them at the mall somewhere, caught shoplifting. Deb meets Lumen, and Dexter insists she's just a tenant. Dexter has a heart-to-heart with Aster, that whole relationship. Lumen finds that Olivia is being abused by Barry and tells Dexter. Dexter meets up with Barry and then threatens him and makes him leave town. Harry appears to Dexter and tells him he's proud of him. Dexter drops Olivia off at home and then has another talk with Aster and kind of sort of reiterates what Harry told him, that he's proud of her. The next part is Aster asks Dexter if Lumen is his girlfriend. He says she's just a friend until next episode. Aster asks if it makes Dexter feel better to help Lumen, and Dexter tells Aster he loves her. Back at the office, Dexter finds the identity of the blood that he took from Jordan's vial. It's Emily Cole, a woman who's still alive.
Birch.
Emily Birch. Right, Cole. Jordan calls Dexter's house and talks to Lumen, and he makes it clear he knows what's going on. So that's the end of Teenage Wasteland. The other part of that storyline is getting the case reopened. We find Batista's report back dead, but it didn't matter. Deb gets into filing duty and discovers more evidence in the Barrel Girls case. She brings that to Batista. Batista tells LaGuerta about the evidence. LaGuerta thinks it's just Deb's way of getting revenge and doesn't want to reopen the case. Then Deb gives her a righteous speech, which makes LaGuerta feel guilty. And then LaGuerta agrees to reopen the case, but tells Deb her side of the story, that Quinn was suspended in order to protect Dexter. Deb then confronts Quinn in of all places, an interrogation room about this whole thing with Dexter. Quinn spills the beans, and which I have to assume is some sort of Old West term or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I hope so.
Yeah. Quinn comes home to find Liddy waiting for him, and Liddy shows him pictures of Dex and Lumen dumping bags into the ocean. And then Liddy threatens to talk to Deb, and Quinn threatens him not to. So that's pretty much that episode. The recap for In the Beginning, episode 510. Dexter sends Harrison and the babysitter away Some things are heating up with Jordan Chase and all that. He moves Lumen to his apartment, and we find that Liddy is spying on them. Dexter and Lumen visit Emily Birch, but she doesn't tell them anything. The Barrel Girl case is reopened. LaGuerta sends Deb and Quinn to pick up Cole. They end up talking to Jordan, who isn't of any help. Deb and Quinn and Dexter find DVDs of the Barrel Girl victims at Cole's house. Dexter makes a switch to prevent anyone from finding out Lumen is the 13th victim. He gives Lumen the DVD, which she later watches. Deb tells Dexter that no one who went through the torture in these videos could be normal again. She also tells him she connected Cole to Dan the dentist, who was found at the warehouse crime scene a couple episodes ago. She figures between Boyd, Cole, and Dan, there's a vigilante taking out the guys. Lumen returns to Emily's place alone. Emily tells her years ago Jordan convinced Boyd, Cole, Dan, and Alex Tilden to rape and abuse her at a camp, and that Jordan went by the name Eugene Greer. He's the fat kid in the picture. Dexter ends up meeting Liddy, who forges Quinn's signature to requisition surveillance gear. Dexter and Lumen break into Alex's house and finds he was definitely involved in the abuse, the Barrel Girl stuff, because he's got a piece of jewelry from each victim. Jordan visits Emily's house and she tells him that she told Lumen, yikes, the truth, which is what he instructed her to do. Jordan comes to the Miami Metro to give a DNA sample and meets up with Dexter. They both know what's going on. Dexter and Lumen prepare to kill Alex. Lumen looks stunning in her new killing outfit. It's love at first sight. Liddy records Lumen and Dexter practicing the kill maneuver. Jordan tells Alex to go home. Jordan calls Deb and tells her that Alex called looking for Cole, which sends them to Alex's house. Dexter and Lumen wait for Alex to get home. They drug him, and he awakens in the kill room. Yada, yada, yada. Alex pleads innocent. Lumen kills him. Deb and Quinn arrive at Alex's house, but it's empty. Then we discover that the kill room is in a vacant house next door, proving that the poor housing market is a boon to serial killers.
I think that happened last year, too.
Yeah, it's great. It's just great. Deb discovers a fresh footprint, and it's a female footprint near the house. Back at Dexter's apartment, the catharsis of killing your abuser turns Lumen on, and she and Dexter, quote, sharpen knives, as the kids call it these days. I call it BS. So, what did you think of these episodes?
Bam! What a whirlwind that was. Wow.
Yeah, I actually took notes, and as you can tell, if you take notes on what happens, you get a lot of... you get everything. So,
yeah,
thanks for enduring that, everyone.
That was very Lost Lowdown-esque.
Mm-hmm.
But all at once. Yeah, wow. It's good, though. It kind of reminded me of everything. Yeah, so on the whole, I'd say I like this part of the season. I think everything's picked up pretty well, and I'd say I liked the Teenage Wasteland episode more.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do like this second one also. It was good. It was enjoyable. But I thought the Astor stuff went pretty well. I guess that stuff worked for me because it kind of connects to, the old days on the show. And so it feels like it feels like something that's actually developing things that have been, developing since the beginning. So I liked how that worked, and it, it's kind of a heartwarming tale. A little bit cheesy, but I thought it was pretty good. And then I liked the stuff with Jordan in that episode. The whole him and Dexter running, and how he says everything comes from Play-Doh, and then like the phone call at the end was a good cliffhanger. So I thought that was a really good episode. I really enjoyed that one. I actually watched that one twice.
Oh wow!
Yeah, which is a rarity for me.
What is this, Abaturno?
Wow.
I don't know what that means, but I think it's fitting.
I don't know what it means either, but I get it, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I like Teenage Wasteland better than in the beginning. Yeah,
it was an episode where I thought, this was really strong, and I really felt like I was really excited for the episode after that. Whereas the next one didn't quite make me as excited for this upcoming episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I still want to see it, but it just wasn't quite as strong. And of course, probably the nail in the coffin for it is the whole Dexter and Lumen actually what did you say? Sharpening their knives. That's what y'all calling it these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. That turned a corner that I think has to be kind of polarizing. I don't really see the audience just blindly accepting that. Some might, but it's pretty abrupt, because they had basically no physical contact before that. And they go from 0 to knife sharpening in a few seconds, and it is after a murder, which is a little bit strange, more than a little bit strange, I'd say, for someone like Lumen, who, as far as I can tell, I mean, aside from being raped and tortured, is essentially a normal person, not like Dexter.
Yeah.
I guess I wouldn't expect her to be in the mood after murdering someone, even if it was, someone she felt deserved it. And not to mention, the idea of having sex after being, raped over and over again. It seems a little bit soon to be so comfortable with it. I feel like if they were going to do it, it just should have been developed more slowly, and she should have been more tentative about it. It just all kind of it's like they wanted to get it done, and they just kind of brushed into it. So I maybe don't dislike it quite as much as you do, but I agree that it wasn't particularly well handled, and really I think I would have been happy with them just leaving it at the tentative stage that it's been at all season. That feels most comfortable for me, and for Dexter also, since Rita just died, it's a little weird.
Yeah, there's like 5 or 6 big reasons why it doesn't really work. I think it's like there's almost no angle you can find where it kind of makes sense. I pretty much agree with everything you said. I mean, I think you summed it up pretty well. My big thing, I guess, at this point is, so many, this is, like I said in the recap, they have a scene where Deb is saying to Dexter, anyone who goes through this is irreparable. Now, that isn't necessarily a true statement, but to have that idea be put out there, I think says something about what they want you to think of Lumen's, psychological nature, her stability or something, So, I don't know, it was weird for them to say that and then go, well, no, she's fine. You know, and this is the same person who, of course, a couple episodes ago couldn't get on an airplane because someone, you know, she had to go through a pat-down. And now it makes it seem like that wasn't a big issue or something. You know, maybe she just felt like she had unfinished business in Miami. She didn't want to get on the plane or something, more than the pat-down made her that uncomfortable. Because remember, we talked about that pat-down anyway and how it was kind of, you know, you thought something weird was going to happen and she was just kind of fine with it. And then she just decides to leave, you know. So someone who's gone through that much, you know, they portray her character fairly realistically for someone with her backstory. And it seems like, yeah, a bit much to be like, okay, now she's just ready to be 100% full throttle intimate with Dexter,
right?
You know? And I think there's something. Obviously, I think it's the catalyst is that she had just killed one of her abusers. But I feel like I would believe this moment more, where she feels, you know, sort of comfortable enough to be vulnerable, you know. Again, in a sort of sexual situation, I would buy it if they had just killed Jordan Chase and all of this was over with. You know, I'd buy it that all of her demons are now dead, and the weight is lifted from her shoulders, and she can sort of move on, and even if it's just even if it is, you know, sort of just a reaction, and she didn't really think about it, and it's, you know, impulsive, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And but it's like she just killed, you know, Alex, and the main guy who's behind it all, who just called her on the phone yesterday to say, I'm on to you guys, is still around. So I feel like I don't buy what I think they're trying to get us to buy with, you know, the fact that she killed Alex let her feel comfortable enough to sort of sleep with Dexter. It's like, yeah, but the main guy behind it is still out there and is, you know, specifically onto you guys. So
yeah, it's more or less openly threatening you at this point.
Yeah, so I don't really buy it. You know, that's my thing. That's why I call it BS. It feels really contrived, and I don't think they needed it. You know, I mean, Dexter and Lumen, you know, whatever the end of their storyline is, they can go the whole storyline and never sleep together. I know they that won't happen now, but and you know, and I would be fine. I would be fine with it. You know, it's not. And maybe, you know, obviously it's my opinion. Maybe there's other fans who are rooting for them to get together, but to me, it never seemed like it was about their romance or any attraction between them. It was two people who sort of needed, you know, who found themselves in both bad situations and each could help the other, and they both sort of, you know, pieced themselves together, you know, with help from the other person. And of course, in, you know, those situations, you know, maybe romance brews, but, you know, like you said, like, they go from 0 to 60, you know, and Dexter and Lumen, neither one ever presented themselves like they were attracted to the other.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like it's been 4 episodes of this, you know, subtextual sexual tension or something, you know, like even in the last episode when Dexter is talking to Aster, and she's like, you know, just tell me if she's your girlfriend, and he's like, no, she's a tenant, and Aster says she's more than she's a tenant. He goes, okay, she's a friend, and I'm helping her. You know, I mean, I don't know if that's the scene to say I kind of like her, but I feel like at some point, you know, for me to buy this, them hooking up, it's like at some point I need Dexter to tell somebody, Harry, you know, or somebody, like he's feeling some attraction to her or something, you know. And maybe the writers just think that's obvious, you know.
Yeah. She did. She was the instigator.
Mhm.
So I think that part works. It makes that work a little better. I think there were like mild hints that they were going to go in that direction. I mean, I think we even talked about in the podcast, like they were setting her up as something like the next Rita. I think pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to say they had actually done anything, but it seemed like that. It seemed clear that was a path they could go down. But I guess they just didn't really they didn't really develop that very much beyond the hints until this, where it's beyond hints.
Yeah, it seems to me like it should be, Lumen could be the next Rita, but I would imagine the point is Dexter's not over Rita, so he's going to resist that. He's gonna help her out, but he's not going to go down that road. But yeah, she was the instigator, but it's at the same time it's on him to say no if he thinks it's a bad idea, or she's not emotionally ready or something, And so for him to, continue, it's like, well, he's reciprocating the attraction. So
True.
But it's not that big a deal. It's just, to me, one of the sort of, it just doesn't, it just stands out in sort of a character sense that it just doesn't sort of gel with the other stuff. But plot wise, I guess they need it.
Yeah.
Or they think they need it.
And then they have Dexter in voiceover saying to her, "I'm not a monster," and it's like, well, you could have said that about Lila, but that didn't necessarily make that a healthy relationship.
Exactly.
It feels to me like.
Well, and Rita didn't think Dexter was a monster either.
Of course not.
So
but I guess the point is,
that wasn't a healthy relationship either.
Rita didn't know about Dexter. I think the point, she knows about him and doesn't think he's a monster.
Yeah.
But I guess I feel like they've been. We talked about this so many times. This is like. Dexter is a broken record, basically, when it comes to every season he's got to share his dark passenger, and it's just a different kind of thing every time. And I feel like this is closest to the Lila thing, except Lila was just crazy, where Lumen's a victim trying to get revenge.
Well, yeah, like Lila was a dark character, and Dexter's like, well, that's bad. I don't need to be with another dark person,
Yeah.
So, and Dexter, Lumen is what, the light character.
I guess so.
If I read into that dense subtext there, if I get my magnifying glass out and my algebra calculations, I can maybe discern that that's what they're saying.
Yes, I think that's the idea.
So yeah, it makes sense, but it's just I don't know. I just don't think 3 episodes from the end that they really need them to be romantically involved for the drama to work.
I agree. I think the bond is strong enough.
I don't think Dexter could really be any more invested in her. So it's
he's put himself way on the line for her.
And that's the thing. I don't even necessarily sort of mind that she had that impulse. I think it's weird, but whatever. You're writing a character, but it's like I just felt like a better scene would have been for it not to actually happen. For them to get close and Dexter to, can have the same realization without actually sleeping with her that she doesn't think he's a monster, But I don't know. It just seemed like an easy thing to do, I guess, and they went down the easier path and make it more sort of interesting. But
yeah. It sets up some obvious, conflict to come, but.
Well, yeah, now Dexter can't say they're just friends.
Right.
Now when Liddy comes and says you're sleeping with her, it's going to be true now.
Yes.
It wasn't true yesterday, but now it's true.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's gonna, and to me those are so crappy, crappy conflicts that are just sort of because of a whim, but it happens in drama, so.
It does. I agree with you though. Like a scene where she does it starts the same, but Dexter says we shouldn't do this for X, Y, and Z reason that makes sense.
Yeah,
would have been a more believable scene.
Yeah, like they kind of kiss. She does the whole putting his shirt, over his hand, so he's kind of restrained.
Yeah.
And then he says, okay, no, he shouldn't. And then you cut to them in bed, just sleeping, and he has the same line.
Yeah.
But that they didn't actually sleep together, and it's the same, to me, the same emotional outcome, and it preserves the sort of character stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't write on this show. So.
Yes. I mean, maybe you should.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, but you said it.
They could use it. Yeah, they did there's this guy, I forget his name, but the guy who actually was the showrunner for Dexter for the first 4 seasons actually left this season.
Okay.
So I mean, there are carryovers from previous seasons that are still there, but they did change showrunners. So I don't know. I don't know how much that's responsible for why. I do still think this season is kind of off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if how much that has to do with it, but it just I was kind of not surprised when I found that out.
Yeah.
Because they're definitely going through the standard motions of the Dexter season.
Mm-hmm.
But it does seem like there's something missing.
Yeah. It feels like a recycled season. Like, it's the only sort of new, element is the person that Dexter is getting involved with, who he wants to share his dark passenger with, is a victim.
Yes.
Is a victim who needs his sort of, professional serial killer help.
Right.
And pretty much every other plot line is, standard typical Dexter storyline.
Retread, yeah. Yeah,
no,
it's true.
Oh no, Deb can't trust Quinn and he likes her.
Yeah.
Masuka's crazy and eccentric.
And he makes a lot of sex jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was this the season where he showed his dragon tattoo, his back tattoo? Yeah. Yes.
That was part of the Santa Muerte.
That's right.
Thing. Yeah. And that's another thing. Like, it was, I mean, we haven't seen the last 2 episodes, so who knows what's to come. But, the Santa Muerte thing seems kind of dead at this point. And because, like, at this point, no characters actually care about it. They're actually on to other stuff, namely the Barrel Girls stuff, which is, Dexter's main plot as well. So it makes sense that everything would converge on that at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But they spent early in the season a significant amount of time on the Santa Muerte stuff, and I feel like they just failed to ever make that interesting.
Yeah.
And so I think that's bad. I mean, if you're going to spend that much time on something, I think you need to find a way to make it interesting, even if in the end it does just come down to a very elaborate excuse for Deb to go down into the file room, so she can find out the thing about the DNA.
So she can grab the first file she sees and discover she doesn't need to be in the file room anymore.
Right.
They didn't even bother with a montage scene of her filing, and she just discovers this file. It's the first one she sees.
Yeah.
She's actually a really good detective. Her instincts are really spot on. She knows where to look when,
Yes. That is something that has developed pretty well. I mean, she's been on the ball with a lot of stuff this season as far as being a detective. And, she's put together what's going on with the Barrel Girls, and she knows there's a vigilante out there, and, I feel like she's on the verge of figuring out what Dexter's up to.
Yeah.
Like, if she knew, like, 1 or 2 more facts, I think she would have it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, if she knew what Liddy knows.
Well, if Quinn didn't do the deception and yeah, he told her this information, it was, and she could get the extra piece if she went through Quinn, but
yeah,
she's not going that way.
Right. She's rejected Quinn, which is, of course, I mean, who didn't see that coming?
Mhm. Quinn.
Quinn. Yeah. He didn't see a lot coming.
But yeah, I agree with you. I think Teenage Wasteland was a little, overall, a better episode. That was probably my favorite Aster stuff ever.
Yes.
I don't think Aster's been more interesting.
I agree.
It was, I guess, I don't know if they just finally gave that actress something to do. She did a pretty good job. I like some of her deliveries a lot. And then, you get a fairly big moment where Dexter tells her he loves her.
Yeah. And,
which is really funny because it's coming off of the sort of previous scene where Dexter is talking to Harry. And Harry tells Dexter he's proud of him for helping someone else. And Dexter just goes and tells that exact same thing to Aster.
Yes.
Which I thought was pretty funny. And especially funny considering, Harry is some sort of manifestation of Dexter. So it's Dexter telling himself he's proud of himself, which is very egocentric.
Now, that's interesting. I was going to bring that up, of course. I like to, in our first Dexter podcast, I raised the issue of how to interpret Harry, because I think, the way they present it, it's easy to not really ask that question because it kind of just, the way it functions, you don't necessarily feel like you need to ask that question. Harry does what he does, but it doesn't necessarily feel necessary to know what he is. But this scene, when I started thinking about it, but if you do ask the question, it's kind of interesting. And this scene here, it basically reminded me of the scene in the bathroom from the first episode when he tells him it's the most human thing you've done.
Exactly.
It was the same kind of thing where Dexter's like, I don't want to hear it, too risky, Dexter, blah, blah, blah. I mean, no, that's not what I was going to say. I'm very proud of you, you blah, blah, blah. And then he says, I didn't know you had it in you. And he says, if I had realized that I wouldn't have led you down this path.
Yeah, he insinuates that he thought Dexter was a monster and needed these rules, and that's the best he could do was be a very sort of, a productive monster and not actually be a sort of whole human being.
Yes.
Which is a fairly huge, revelation, I think, in terms of Dexter's character growth. But not that he's ever seemingly quite. I mean, it's a weird thing to say because Dexter's always. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if I can answer that, but it seems to me that Dexter, while feeling like he's a monster, never thought he was just a monster, right? I mean, he always seemed to think he was capable of more. That's why he was always trying, right?
Yeah, although I do think in the first season he wasn't fully trying yet. I feel like he sort of slowly...
Yeah. Well, the first season is, him doing his thing.
Yeah, I feel like he kind of transitioned into trying over the course of the show.
Yeah, that's true. So what's your point about Harry?
Oh, so, you reminded me of something else he said, but now I've forgotten what it was. So, like, having Harry make this seemingly like a revelation, I mean, it comes across like, here's Harry saying, if I had known you had this in you, I wouldn't necessarily have, raised you the way I did. And it's just hard to take a line like that and make that Dexter saying that to himself. It comes across really like this is Harry saying that,
Well, I get the sense of Dexter saying it to himself because he's he's basically, Harry. To me, I always feel like, the manifestation of Harry is basically all of what, the code of Harry that Dexter carries with him. Harry's teachings and how he raised Dexter. It manifests itself into this apparition that we see as Harry. So I think it still works if it's Dexter saying it to himself, because he's saying, these codes that I live by, sort of might be hindering me, basically. And he's sort of more than that.
Right. But it really comes across like it's Harry approving of him, and Dexter's expecting him to say something else. I mean, that just, to me, it's hard to have that scene where Harry's not some other character, because Dexter's expecting one thing, Harry surprises him, and also expresses this specific thing about Harry's point of view on Dexter.
Well, I think you have to start. I think you have to figure out what your givens are, right? And I think you have to agree that if Dexter and Harry know the same things and expect the same things in a conversation, there's sort of no point, right?
Yeah.
If Dexter's going to manifest someone who he knows what that person's going to say, there's almost no point in having a conversation with them. So I feel like you have to start at a point of saying, they will present themselves as two separate personalities. That's sort of the point of having having him appear and having conversations. They want different things. It's about conflict. Harry wants Dexter to do X, Y, Z, or be a certain kind of person, or he shows up to tell him he did something wrong. He shows up to tell him something he knows. Like when he shows up in the first scene in Teenage Wasteland, he basically shows up to tell Dexter that he needs to get Aster and Olivia away because they're in the middle of this Jordan Chase thing. So, I mean, that's something Dexter knows he should do, and, he basically does that. He gets them home, and then the next episode he sends Harrison away. So it's like, I think it's pretty clear that it's, it comes across as Harry is a manifestation of Dexter's personality, and it's basically the parts of himself that doubt himself and the parts of himself that are sort of Harry in his code, and it's, I mean, I get your point, and you're right. I mean, it definitely comes off like that could be Harry sitting there from the beyond saying that, but I feel like it's got to appear that way for the scene to work. For the way that they use it, it needs to appear like it is a separate personality. And it needs to be a personality that can question Dexter, that doesn't sort of intrinsically know what Dexter is thinking, or vice versa,
I guess the big thing about it, yes, and that's the way those scenes usually are, and I agree, that's what Harry is. He's an aspect of Dexter. It's just, I feel like this scene, it's a little convoluted to interpret it that way, and the specific thing about it that I get hung up on is that Vision Harry is specifically speaking from the point of view of real Harry, who raised Dexter. He's talking about the way he raised Dexter and how when Harry says, if I would have known, blah, 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 you were capable of this, I wouldn't have necessarily raised you this way. To me, the translation of that in Dexter's mind is, quote, I wonder if Harry knew I was capable of what I just did, if he would have raised me this way. That's how I take it. I take it as that's what Dexter is questioning, and when it manifests itself as Harry, it's Harry's perspective saying that. Okay. I mean, you can do that. It's just,
So, take the same scenario.
I guess it worked better to me. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Like when Dexter kills the guy at the boathouse and Harry shows up and says, that's the most human thing you've ever done.
Yes.
Or I've seen you do or whatever.
Yeah.
Like to me, the translation is, in Dexter's mind, he's either specifically thinking, this is the most human thing I've seen myself do, or Harry would think this is the most human thing I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so what do you think is going on in that scene where he's showing up to say he's still saying something from his perspective.
Right, that's true. I guess I would say it's Dexter thinking it's the most human thing he's done, or realizing that.
And Harry would be proud of this. I mean, I think that's why Harry shows up. To say that from Harry's perspective.
Right. But I guess because Harry was a real person, and would he really say these things, or is this a totally distorted version of Harry that just exists in Dexter's mind? He might think Harry's speaking this way, but is it completely inaccurate? I guess I want to take it as real.
Yeah, I don't think it's completely inaccurate. I mean,
because it seems like him from the flashbacks. Of course it should.
Well, here's the thing. There's parts about Harry Dexter never found out that will never be that will never sort of display when Dexter manifests Harry, right?
Right. He's not going to start talking about how he slept with his CI and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty clear that it's only Dexter's interpretation of Harry, and technically he could be wrong about certain things. I think we're not supposed to believe he's wrong because some of the things that he says are very very intrinsic to Harry's perspective. I mean, I think if Harry ever says anything that's really crazy, then you go, well, that's weird. Harry wouldn't have thought that. But everything lines up with what Harry says, so I think you take it as it's pretty close to what Harry thinks because it's intrinsic to how Dexter was raised and how he taught Dexter to use the code and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's also since Harry says, I'm proud of you, and Harry is really Dexter's father, essentially. I mean, he raised him, for a large portion of his childhood and really taught him the most essential, things about his character now. That to me, that thing works better if it's Harry than if it's Dexter patting himself on the back.
I agree, but I think it's not Harry. I mean, it's a real world fact that Harry is dead, and that Dexter carries the memory of him around, and it's just interesting to see him project that. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You can get an emotional satisfaction that Harry would think that, but it's
See, that's where I feel like the show kind of gets away with. Uses the fact that the show itself isn't really interested in the question of what is Harry to stage scenes like that where you get to see the father say he's proud of Harry or Dexter, and you get to play that scene emotionally, even though, in reality, I mean, Harry's dead. This isn't Harry. This is Dexter talking to himself. And if you just have Dexter say, I'm very proud of myself, that's,
well, and I think
that's not nearly as good of a scene.
But I think if what you take from the scene is Harry would be proud of Dexter, and not that whatever not some alternate show where it's really Harry from the beyond and Ghost Harry is proud of Dexter. I mean that's weird in his own self. But I think it's as long as Dexter is saying Harry would be proud of me for doing X, Y, Z, or I'm proud of myself for doing X, Y, Z. I mean that's the thing. It's not just Dexter. It's Dexter patting himself on the back because it's all taking place in his head, but I think it is important that he's attaching his whatever thoughts to Harry. So it's not just I'm proud of myself, I'm great. It's Harry would be proud of me, or I think Harry would be proud of me for this. So I mean I think it still works, but it's not specifically the spirit of Harry or something that is, that is the same entity that raised him that is now saying, I'm proud of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think they kind of get away with playing it that way, even though and not really, emphasizing the fact that that's not what's going on.
Yeah, but they don't emphasize it either way, and I think people generally agree that it's in Dexter's head, so they kind of know that it's in his head. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it plays out like it's really Harry, so you kind of go, oh, Harry's proud of him.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, no one's fooled in thinking that that's really Harry. So it's like, it's that thing where you can kind of hold two ideas at once, but,
yeah.
it's like, it's in Dexter's head, but Harry still is proud of him. And
right.
Just don't think about it.
Exactly. Yeah. You can just kind of go down that road even though you know it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's... And also, like, it feels like Harry has a revelation about Dexter, I could have done something different with you. Maybe you could have been normal. You want to take it that far. Like, watching Dexter, he's come to a realization,
Mm-hmm.
But that's not really the case. But it's I feel like they get something out of the fact that you can see it that way.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. I mean, yeah. Exactly. They do get something out of that, but it's really I think, Dexter realizing he's capable of more and sort of, wondering what Harry would have done differently if he knew that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Another thing that did occur to me is I feel like what he did with Barry was not that different from what he did with Rita's ex-husband.
Oh, totally.
It was kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, he's done this before, Harry. I know Harry wasn't around back then, but it's he says it like it's the first time Dexter's ever done anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, I honestly think if I'm really being being picky, I think Harry's reaction was a little bit much for what Dexter did. That was nothing for Dexter.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, Harry should be proud of him for putting himself out there for Lumen, right? I mean, that's been the bulk of him putting himself out there for somebody. So it was a little bit much for him to say, "Oh, you helped Olivia. I'm proud of you." But,
mm-hmm.
Because he's done that and more for others. So.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, something if you stop and think about it, you go, wait a minute. But this. I just, and maybe it has something to do with a new showrunner or something, because this season's been a little weird, and I think Rita has yet to get the respect she deserves. I didn't even like Rita that much, but I say, she died like a week ago, and I just think she's, the show just has not, to me, really done her justice. I don't know. It just seemed like they don't care, or, I mean, not that, I don't even know what I want them to do besides maybe just have some sort of reverence for her character and to use this as an opportunity. I mean, the whole thing, it really, to me, diminishes the end of season 4 to not make Rita's death more impactful on Dexter's life, in terms of his awareness of that, It's impacting him in different ways, but it's not, like, on the forefront of his mind. And, and I feel like I feel like it just makes the lesson that he learned about getting too close to danger and how that affects innocent people and his family just sort of gets thrown out the window, when it's just like, man, I did all this stuff in season 4 and I let Trinity get too close. I didn't kill him when I should have, and now Rita's dead. My family, the kids I was raising do not have a mother. They're, scarred by this for life, and Rita's gone, and what do I do? Oh, well, I'm just going to, not really care that much. Because it seems like after the second episode, he was kind of over it, right?
Pretty much. They had that one bit when he looks in the bathtub and he has some weird flash of her. And then there's the scene where he had to describe finding her to Jordan on stage. Mm-hmm. Where it seemed like he had some kind of reaction to it, but those are pretty isolated. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to play up like it was the most horrifying thing that's ever happened to him, yet he doesn't sort of act like it. Like, I don't know, maybe I wanted something like for him to sort of resist Lumen becoming the new Rita, and he just sort of never resisted it. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
Like he he doesn't want her to be at the house, even though it's the safest place for her or something. He doesn't want her to touch Rita's things yet. Like just some little thing of that he's not over or he's not deal. But again, of course the point is that his helping Lumen is supposed to be getting him over Rita, but it seems like he's forgotten about Rita as he's using Lumen to get over her. So.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's what Aster says, and his reaction to it makes it.
I guess his reaction was "I love you," not "Yes, you're right."
His reaction to it, I mean, he doesn't say it. Yeah, he doesn't address it directly, but it made it. I read it that he hadn't really thought about it, and I think we're supposed to think that that's true.
Yeah.
I think they're that's their way. The writers are telling us that's sort of what's going on. But yeah, I don't know that they've really shown that very well. Beyond telling us that in the one scene.
Yeah, again, I talked about this before. It just seemed like in the early part of the show after Rita's death, when he was sort of off kilter with his killing and stuff. I feel like maybe they should have just continued that. Like Rita's death caused him not to be able to sort of kill, which made his life even worse. Then he finds Lumen, which gives him a way to kill again, which maybe could bring him back to dealing with Rita's thing. So maybe that's kind of what they're trying to do, but, they got 2 episodes left, and it's like,
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's just, Aster was right. It just doesn't seem like he cares, And it's like, I understand if Dexter can't be emotional about Rita's death, but it seems like he should at least act like she's in his thoughts or memories or something, or, at least this season. I don't want him to, spend 5 years dealing with her death. But, it's just so weird. It was such a big thing last season, the end of the season. It's just, it changed the show, and it's just, I don't know. Just to me, they didn't really convince me that it mattered as much.
Yeah.
Outside of the plot.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they did kind of brush it off to move on to what they wanted to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, honestly, I do kind of miss those days. I mean, that felt, now that seems like classic Dexter, and this is the weird new stuff where Rita's not around. And I guess that's another thing about Teenage Wasteland. Bringing Aster back is kind of bringing Rita back.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something I actually liked about it. It's sort of weird. I wasn't a big Rita fan or anything, but once she was dead, I do feel like there's kind of a hole in the show.
Yeah.
And Lumen isn't really filling that hole as much as they maybe want her to.
Yeah, totally.
I just don't think she,
as much as Dexter, as much as he may want her to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Aster stuff. I mean, I think it was good to see him try to connect with her.
Yeah.
And try to figure out how to do that. I would watch a whole season of that, of Dexter trying to figure out how to do that kind of stuff. Because that's, like you said, that plot line is the main thread of the show. That his sort of long-term character growth and being able to have emotional responses and connect to people. And, I don't know. Who's the last person he told that he loved them? Maybe Rita or Harrison or something, but I can't remember him just sort of saying that.
He doesn't say that very much at all. No, I was really surprised. Mm-hmm. And it made the scene good. It made it have more impact. It made it seem like it meant something.
Yeah.
I do think it's kind of disappointing that what he tells her, he immediately kind of goes back on in the next episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is really disappointing that he's gonna come off like a liar.
Yeah, yeah.
He just gained back one shred of trust from Aster, and it's going to be like, well, you seem like you were lying to me, so now I know to never trust you. Fool me once.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, he barely got back, any of her respect. So yeah, he can say, well, I wasn't lying at the time, and technically that's true, but
it's not gonna matter.
Yeah, it's just a bit much. I'm not sure exactly how much time has passed, but it does seem like it really hasn't been long enough, and I don't know. I guess they felt like they needed to put someone in there pronto.
It just seems to me that, like, since the whole, impetus for Lumen and Dexter's relationship is her sexual abuse, that would be something, that would be off limits, where it's like, okay, well, what it's not is about their romance. It's about everything else but their romance. Because, of course, like, the Jimmy Smith season, was about other things. It's not about Dexter trying to romance Jimmy Smith, There's other things that relationship is about, and I thought, okay, the Lumen relationship is going to be about these other things because, she's sexually abused, so anything in that category shouldn't sort of develop between them, but without it sort of working.
Right.
But we'll see where they go with that. I have to believe in the next episode, just for the law of, writing, as it, stories trended towards more conflict. Some Dexter or Lumen is going to freak out about what happened. I have to assume one of them is going to realize that was a mistake.
Yeah, I hope so. That will help somewhat, but yeah. And
Liddy's got that camera system. I don't know what he's recording, but if he can see into their bedroom, he just got them on tape.
Yeah.
Dexter is so off his game, man. He is so off his game.
He doesn't have a clue.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing when he shows up to Alex's house and Jordan Chase is watching him break in.
Right.
Like, if he had just snapped a picture with his camera phone, and just turned that into the police, like, he was a little too cocky and assures himself that the kill room would be, that they would still be there when the police got there. But it's just, Dexter is so sloppy, he has no idea. He's literally like 4 or 5 steps behind his main villains.
Yes.
Yeah. And he's got more than one. So it's like he's about to be. I mean, he's kind of in over his head, literally. So, not literally, but I think he's sort of in over his head. He just hasn't realized it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. He only knows about half of his problems, and even those he's only partially aware of. How big a trouble he's in. So yeah. I do like Jordan Chase. I think he's a pretty good villain.
Yeah. He's crazy. They made him very, very strange.
Yeah.
Like in the scene with Emily Birch, where she's talking to him, and then she goes up to touch him, and he like moves her hand. Yeah. And it's like he doesn't want her touching him. He's a weird guy.
Yeah.
He's got some issues.
Yeah, and I mean, even the fact that, like, this was his first victim and she's, like, got these weird feelings for him, but he doesn't want her to touch him. Like, he's just really fucked up. And I think, that makes for an interesting character. And obviously he's also, pretty smart and, conniving. And, of course, he was the mastermind behind things. That's what we learn. Even though he didn't participate.
What I don't understand is why was he sort of interested in Dexter from the beginning? I didn't understand why he was sort of interested in Dexter when he first met him.
That they have not. I don't know. They didn't really say, because he gets a reason to be interested in him after he's interested.
After he steals his blood and all that stuff, like, then it's like, oh, I'm on to Dexter and Lumen. But it seemed like he didn't know about that, like that anything was up. but he was almost acting like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't understand why he was sort of invested in him before he knew that Dexter was involved with Lumen.
Yeah. I don't either.
Yeah, this season's been a little rocky. It hasn't been horrible. It's been a lot of good stuff, but
it has. Individual scenes and bits have been like really good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of the overall picture that feels kind of blah. I don't think he's quite as, I don't know what the word is, compelling as John Lithgow was. But but he's pretty good.
I don't think you have anything what's weird about Jordan Chase is I don't know what I have to fear from him.
Mhm.
Well, he's not going to touch me.
Right.
He's not even seeming like he's a direct sort of killer, like he's going to just shoot them or come after them with a knife or something.
Right.
So I think what's, definitely one of the big differences between him and Trinity is that Trinity had a very obvious threat level. You sort of knew he would brutally attack you or
himself
something.
was a killer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So and plus it's John Lithgow. It was sort of a more imposing figure, I think.
Right.
But yeah, no, Jordan Chase is interesting. The Jordan Chase, they keep saying, they keep making, this idea that he's this worldwide superstar. Just everybody knows that name. And come on, guys, really. It's okay. It's like, I guess the closest thing is Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
But it's just like there are people you say Tony Robbins, they'll go, who?
Yeah, so the Tony Robbins.
The Tony Robbins.
Yeah, it's a bit much. Motivational speakers don't really have that high of a celebrity value. But, whatever. They're trying to sell it. Mm-hmm. I understand. He maybe it's because Johnny Lee Miller's British or something, but he reminds me of Patrick Bateman a little bit at certain times.
Yeah. He's got a businessman who's also psychotic. You're halfway there to Patrick Bateman anyway, so.
Yeah. And there's this idea that Alex puts out there that he's able to talk you into doing bad things. Like he's just really good at, getting you to do what he wants.
Yeah.
That's the whole
motivational speaker thing. That's the whole, it seemed like at a young age he tapped into how to make people do things, how to convince them to follow their instinct. And if you can convince them that something is their instinct, then they will realize, oh, okay, well, then it's nothing wrong to give into your instinct, right?
Right.
So it seems like he's a good manipulator like that.
Yeah. Oh, and so we talked about this in the last podcast, Dave. We've solved the mystery of the picture now.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan isn't a picture. He just changed his name. And there was one other guy who they've now killed. And the woman took the picture.
And she took the picture, yeah.
So they pretty much, closed the book on, don't worry about the picture anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We've identified everyone.
Yeah, the picture's done.
Yeah. It seemed really weird to have like two people, and then Jordan was taking the picture, and it's just like, how many villains are they going to throw out there?
Mm-hmm.
And I like how there's all these henchmen who get like one or two scenes. I liked Alex. I thought he was good in his little tiny bit,
Yeah.
But they're all kind of, I don't know. I never quite know what to make of these people.
Mm-hmm.
Because they met him when they were younger, and yet it seems like he continued to hold power over them.
Well, I think they've still been doing this. He didn't stop. I feel like they've been doing this pretty much consistently ever since.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like when they were younger, I think you're more impressionable at that age. Peer pressure is a bigger deal, But the fact that they're kind of like middle aged now, and they've been like under his, direction for all this time. Like it's just, and yet just living their normal lives on the side.
Well, I think because they share this bond as kids, to me that makes it believable that it, if it had happened, if it had somehow started in adulthood. I mean, anyone can be sort of manipulated or brainwashed at any age, but I think the fact that they were kids when it happened, and they sort of, I guess maybe didn't know any better, or something like didn't know any better. They obviously knew better. If they just continue to do this and they, and he continues to manipulate them and this is their friendship thing, their bond just keeps being strengthened every time they do this to women, so that solidifies it every time.
Right.
And it just builds on itself. They just keep doing it,
Right.
Because they had 13, just recently.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have to imagine it's been more than that.
Right, yeah. Maybe that's just the ones on the DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't necessarily had DVDs the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
But he does kind of like rat out Alex.
Well, basically what he does is he throws Alex to the police to try to catch Dexter.
Yeah.
He basically doesn't care about that.
Right.
He's the typical boss who doesn't mind throwing the lower level guys.
The childhood bond is not really a thing to him. Like they would.
Well, he's a manipulator. He's not fooled by it all. I mean, he's the guy pulling the strings, so of course he's going to have a different view of it. I mean, he would probably not want to do that to Alex, but he'll do that to Alex and to get Lumen and Dexter in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean they're as important to him as, what if he needs to throw them under the bus for some reason, he's not going to hesitate to do that. So
it's what his primal instinct tells him.
Right. So yeah, exactly. But it's not like they're BFFs. It's weird, like they have this relationship going back for a long time, but he doesn't really care about them that much, and yet they've been doing this stuff for so long. Like,
well, I mean, I wouldn't say he doesn't care about him that much. I mean, you have to realize he is a psychopath.
Yeah.
So what he's willing to do isn't necessarily going to make a lot of sense. But like I said, he's the guy pulling the strings. So if he wants to, manipulate the situation, because I mean, he's got to know he's not doing them any favors when he's getting them to do this stuff. I mean, even the first time, I have to imagine that he's like sort of realizing he has this power and liking it, but he's knowing he's corrupting these people. So
yeah,
it's a perverse friendship anyway. So
it makes me really. I want to see these guys interact. I want to see all of them together. I want to see what that's like, because it's hard for me to understand how that works. Seeing Jordan with Dexter, like, I just can't imagine that guy, being able to talk these, 5 on the surface normal adults into doing these things for years and years and years. Like, I'm trying to imagine how that would work. I'd like to see it. I'm really curious. And we only see them separately. Like, we don't get to actually see them interacting.
Well, I would imagine when Jordan is doing his magic, he's more like the scene with him and Emily. He's not like the scene with Dexter necessarily.
Okay.
He's sort of normal guy. I think he puts on his crazy face and he starts,
okay.
he starts pitting the people against his friends against each other, or making them egg each other on and stuff like that. It would be interesting to see, but people can be manipulated fairly easily. I mean, you see it in all shapes and forms throughout society. So it's not surprising to me he could do this, especially since he's got that, like I said, this sort of mantra or whatever that sort of lets you do whatever you're sort of excuse to do whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this sort of empowering excuse to take what you want, and that, you know, it's primal. A man is always taken from the land, and you know what, you know, it's like,
and made a DVD of it.
And then yeah, exactly. So, and you know, you have people who are rapists and murderers and serial killers who aren't even talked into it, you know, who
right.
just have the predilection, and these guys are obviously not the most normal anyway, even if they do just sort of work at a bank. And I was going to say, maybe Alex and, you know, it's hard to tell how close they are now. I mean, it seems like they're still doing the killings together, but
yeah, I mean, they just got
Alex
through. They must have been around each other pretty recently.
Well, yeah, but it's like, to me at least, it shows that Alex was working at a bank. He's not working with Jordan Chase. I feel like maybe Jordan is closer to Cole because of that or something.
Right.
That might say how much they hang out, but, you know, when they're not just doing this killing thing.
And like Dan dentist was a dentist, and
mm-hmm.
and Boyd was the animal control guy.
Yeah.
So, like, it seems like they're all off doing their own thing. Cole is definitely probably the closest since he's, you know, seeing him every day.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I mean, Dan, like, calls somebody on the phone and tells them. So, they must chat now and then.
Oh, so do you think maybe he called Jordan?
Well, probably. I mean, now that we know what we know.
Is that how Jordan knows about Dexter and Lumen?
I think that's how Dexter knows about Lumen, at least.
Yeah, like he's thinking, okay, Lumen's out there.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out why he was interested in Dexter so early.
Yeah, that was the first thing. Yeah, so based on that, like even if he didn't call Jordan, he called one of the guys, and I think Jordan knew that Lumen was out there and that Lumen had killed Dan. So, or tried to. So, so I think I was already on to her, and then there was that bit with Cole about Boyd when he tells Cole, you know, pinning us on Boyd was the first smart thing you've done, and then Cole says it wasn't me, and the scene ends there, and I feel like that at least insinuates that they might start suspecting that someone else is doing this.
And do you think he gets suspicious when someone from the police department shows up at his conference, maybe Dexter?
Yeah. So I think that might, he doesn't necessarily know it's Dexter, but I think that might be why he zeroes in on Dexter at that point.
Mm-hmm.
As being someone who might have been able to plant evidence and, you know, get Boyd Fowler set up.
Yeah.
And so he sort of keeps an eye on Dexter, and then I guess you know, once the blood thing happens, he realizes this is definitely him, and so he must be working with Lumen. That's based on what we've seen. I feel like that's sort of the best he can do.
That's right. I forgot. He claims he knows Dexter because he followed the Trinity case.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah,
that was his stated reason.
Yeah.
But he really looks into Dexter's background, and it definitely comes across like he's got, I mean, unless he's just, you know, I don't know, some kind of weird serial killer victim buff, it comes across like he's got a personal interest in Dexter, you know, beyond what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I feel like it went the other way around, that he got suspicious of Dexter, he looked up his stuff, and then found out about the Trinity thing, so he said that.
Yeah, but he says that before he finds out about the whole Cole thing, the Cole and Boyd switch up, right?
He does? He says that in the station?
Well, I thought he says when he first meets Dexter, when he comes to the station for the first time, that's when he meets Dexter, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And Dexter sees the watch to take the picture, and I think, and isn't it the same scene where he says, I knew about the Trinity case or something?
I thought he didn't say that until the later scene when they meet at the convention. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember.
Yeah, I forget. But, well, if it happened the way you're saying, then that makes sense. But I thought it was, he told him one of the first things he said was, you know, Dexter Morgan, I know who you are because of the whole Trinity thing. I followed that, and it was, like, weird. And then, because, yeah, it's not until he comes back to the station later that I think it's another episode that he comes back to find out about the Boyd thing.
I think the Boyd thing was that same episode.
Okay. Well, it's not like we podcasted about it or anything, so, you know, it's not like I know.
Yeah, I don't remember what episode that is. I mean, I could try to go find it.
I don't think it matters.
Okay. All right. I mean, it was that kind of thing where, you know, he's onto him now, so, you know, for whatever reason happened at the beginning.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about Trinity anymore. Nor does anyone else. I do feel like a kind of disappointment on that, too, on, like, Trinity's family and the fact that they spent so much time with Dexter, and yet that seems to have no consequence whatsoever.
Well, they tried to go down that road, and Quinn got shut out. I mean, he took the picture to the son, and they got close.
Yeah, I know, but it felt like a tease and no follow-through.
Well, he got as close as he could without saying, yeah, that's Dexter.
Yeah.
You know, because if he says that, then the story changes.
That's true.
You know, so they did their due diligence, I think. They got Quinn to get in trouble for it, and he went above and beyond the law to try to go with his hunch, and, you know, I'm fine with that. I mean, especially considering the FBI is supposedly handling it. You know, it's not the Miami Metro's case anymore. It's back to the FBI, so it's supposedly being, you know, they're really tracking him down in the background, I'm sure. So, you know, they're going to find him any minute now.
Okay.
Well, anything else with the episodes?
I'll also throw out there that I am a Liddy fan as well.
He's great.
I love Peter Weller. He just saunters into that part and projects this this threatening, menacing quality while being very relaxed for the most part. I like the thing going on in the background that he's clearly an alcoholic. Like he wants to go get beers with Quinn at 7 a.m. and then they show him, Quinn comes, he's in his apartment, there's a half empty bottle of tequila or something as he's waiting, and he just got into Quinn's liquor cabinet or something. He's kind of a wreck, but he is latched, but he's also, a cop, and he knows how to investigate things, and he's really got more hard evidence on Dexter than just about anybody ever had.
Yeah.
So it's been a big problem. I really enjoyed that one little thing with Liddy where he's in a gift shop and this kid looks at him and he makes this finger gun shot at him.
The kid. That was the best reaction. That kid had the best reaction. That kid was like, "Whoa, I was not expecting that when I smiled at that guy." It's what was, and it's one of those things, and then the kid just goes with his parents who are busy checking out. They have no idea what just happened.
Yeah.
And the kid's not going to say anything.
No.
It's just one of those little things that just happens in life where something happens to a kid and they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
They don't say anything. And, I love that little thing. And it's a playful thing, too. It's a playful thing to kind of shoot him, but it comes off so not playful. And the kid's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. It's the kind of thing that could be charming, but it's actually creepy.
Yeah. It comes up creepy, and the kid, that was a great kid actor. He had the best reaction to that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was really good. Kids have trouble with that sometimes. So, yeah, it was a nice little
that and the scene when he's talking to to Quinn in his kitchen, and he drops the coffee thing.
Oh yeah.
What was he like? Sometimes stuff happens, or sometimes coffee gets dropped. I don't know what he said, but it's such a obvious threat, but so innocuous too at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but it's like, but then Quinn is left to clean up the mess, and he didn't have any shoes on, so he needs glass or hot coffee. It's such a weird threat. It's a low-level threat, but it's very direct, you know.
Right. There's something really intense about it. Like, I'm just going to smash some glass and hot liquid all over your floor. But then you say that, and it's like, that's not that bad.
He didn't take the coffee thing and smash it on the wall. He just dropped it.
He just dropped it.
He just dropped it. It was just, it wasn't a fit of anger like he's really wrecking anything. It's just, oops, drop this, but I'm threatening you with this.
Right. Yeah, there's a weird implication there.
Yeah, no, Peter Wells has been great. He was really pretty much interesting from the beginning with this character, and he just walks in. I'm telling you, if they don't watch out, this will be the Liddy show after a while, because he's not taking no for an answer from anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually kind of depressed that he knows so much, because I feel like that's basically his death warrant. Yeah. And he just can't last very long, you know. But he's just a lot of fun to watch.
Well, maybe it'll end up where he doesn't end up dead, but the evidence is gone, and since he's an alcoholic, no one will believe what he's saying.
Yeah, they could do that.
He's a disgraced cop who's an alcoholic, and he's obviously got a vendetta against maybe the department or maybe against, whatever they could say. And so maybe he'll still be around.
That's a good point.
That's not really a long-term solution, because he could just continue to be a problem. But,
that's true.
So they might kill him, but I could see them.
But they could bring him back for another season.
Yeah, exactly.
If they wanted. I mean, pull a Ben kind of thing.
Or maybe they'll find a way to trade the evidence for him getting reinstated as a cop, and then he'll drop it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Trying to think of the last episode.
I also like the fact that they finally had a scene with him and Dexter. I felt like that was, long awaited, at least for me, and I think inevitable. Of course, I always like scenes where there's so much asymmetry in what the characters know. Like, Dexter has no clue whatsoever that this guy is actively investigating him, and that, he's on the verge of finding out all kinds of stuff about him, and he's already got pictures of him and stuff, and he just sees this guy on the station, and,
And he actually stops him from, he catches him, and that's the other part of the asymmetry, is he doesn't know he's catching them doing something bad.
That's right. He plays it off just, I just want a pen, and he's going to forge a pen signature.
I'm just going to leave him a note here. I'm just writing my friend a note.
Yeah, it's a weird bit, because Quinn just hires him, in this down and out state, because he wants help and he doesn't want to necessarily do it himself. He's getting in trouble, but like Liddy picks it up, and like he's off on his own now. He doesn't need Quinn at all to do this. He's like personally invested in the investigation.
Well, and this is obviously sort of the subtext here, is that of course Liddy, he just got fired from being a cop, and now he's got a new case.
Right.
And he's just too wrapped up in this case. And of course, once it gets juicy, he's really not going to let it go.
Yes.
If it turned out to be, Dexter has some parking tickets, he'd be like, whatever.
Right.
But it got really, So I like the idea of this sort of down and out cop who just sort of gets this little case thrown to him, and since he is a down and out cop, he's because he's also got he's got his ambition as a cop, but he's also got the sort of honor or, his professionalism as a cop to sort of figure out what's going on. So he's a pretty complex character for just, the henchman guy who's doing stuff behind the scenes.
And I get the sense that right now this is almost like all he has is like this case. Like he's just, other than this, he's just like drinking.
I think that's exactly it. I mean, I think that's to me why it works. You know, why it's not more. It doesn't feel contrived that he's doing this. You know, because it's like, he would just be drinking otherwise.
Yeah.
You know. You know, setting him up as a corrupt cop anyway gets him a pretty good start in my book. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's been kind of a season of guest stars. And they're all kind of doing different things.
Mhm. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought we'd get Peter Weller and Johnny Lee Miller.
Yeah, that's crazy.
On the same season, especially.
Yeah. I was surprised when we got John Lithgow last year.
Mhm.
I thought that was strange, you know. But in his case, he was in pretty much every episode, and you know, he had a lot to do. You know, whereas like Liddy and Jordan Chase are, in a way, smaller parts.
Mhm.
You know, I guess Lumen is probably larger, but even she didn't show up until like the 4th or so episode.
Mhm.
At least not, you know, able to speak.
Yeah, you see at the end of the 3rd, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that, but you know, anytime they have more guest stars, they each get smaller roles. You know, there's only so much screen time.
Yeah.
Like, look at Officer Manzone, right?
Yeah.
I think we've seen her in one shot the last 2 episodes, the last 2 or 3 episodes. So.
Yeah, it feels like they're as done with her as they are with the Santa Muerte case.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so what did they do? It's like, if you look at the effects of the Santa Muerte case, they introduced Officer Manzone. She got moved up. She's not a detective, right?
Yeah.
She is a detective.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I believe so.
I thought, like, I couldn't tell if she got the detective promotion or if she just got, like, moved up to homicide, but she's not specifically a detective. Because, you know, like, Deborah wasn't a detective at first, but she was still working homicide, right? When the show first starts?
I think she was working Vice when the show first started.
Oh, she's working Vice. That's right.
Yeah.
Huh.
I
Well,
think Manzone just got made detective. That was my impression.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, it was a whole bump or something. So
yeah.
So she got made detective. So now she's up there, and Deb ends up reopening getting the Barrel Girls case reopened and finding the vigilante. You know, so that's pretty much the only thing that really happened from that stuff.
Yes.
So I have to believe that means Manzone's going to come back into the picture, and it'll be important that she's, you know, a homicide detective now.
Mhm.
Like maybe, who's Batista's partner? Didn't he have a partner? It was Dokes, wasn't it? Didn't he used to have a partner?
Was it Dokes?
I don't know.
I thought Dokes was maybe Maria's partner.
Oh, before Maria got chief?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I was just thinking, I was thinking either, you know, maybe Manzone's going to be Deb's new partner if you want to work with Quinn anymore, maybe, or something, or they'll pair up, or Manzone will work with Angel. I don't know. You know, unless they're going to give someone a new partner, why bring Manzone up there?
Right. That's a good point. I kind of thought it didn't matter, but they did it.
It might not.
Yeah.
It's a hanging thread, so we'll see what happens.
It is. I mean, I feel like her character is not that important, but I don't know. It remains to be seen, you know, what, if anything, they do with all that stuff at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I guess because the main plot has seemingly a fair amount of ground to cover. There's only 2 episodes, and, you know, typically in a Dexter season, things reach kind of a peak in episode 11, and get resolved in episode 12. So that doesn't seem to me like enough time. I mean, the Jordan Chase thing feels big enough to incorporate all those 2 episodes. I don't know how they're going to fit in the Santa Muerte stuff.
Mhm.
You know, it just feels unnecessary. Well, I mean, it felt that way all season, but extra unnecessary when there's pressing, you know, in the moment danger, which is what I'm anticipating. That's usually where they go, you know, at the end of the season. Jordan Chase will make something new.
Yeah, but that's the Dexter storyline. You still got Deb and Angel to deal and Quinn to deal with stuff.
But I feel like they're all on the Barrel Girls case now, so I feel like they're going to be involved in that story as well.
Well, but where's the story left to go but to find Jordan, right?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, they got to find Alex. Well, they won't find Alex's body. He's just missing.
Right.
So.
But Deb realizes there's a vigilante. I feel like they're going to progress on that, and they'll be involved at the end. I mean, obviously they won't be involved with killing Jordan or anything, but I think they're going to be occupied with that.
So, but then you're basically saying everyone's working on the same storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to split it up somehow. I mean, not to say they're going to bring Santa Muerte back in, but I don't know.
I just think usually at the end of the season that's what happens. Like the focus shifts and everything converges on the one main plot line.
Mhm. Well, there's definitely going to be. Yeah, I mean, Deb is definitely going to get closer to figuring out what's going on with Dexter and Lumen and how that relates to Jordan Chase.
Yeah, and the Quinn and Liddy thing has to get resolved.
Mhm.
But you know that ties right back to the main plot line. So yeah, that's sort of what I see. I think if anything about this season, I would say that the supporting cast, the non-Dexter supporting cast, Angel and Maria, and even Deb and Quinn, I feel like they've gotten kind of put in the background this season.
Mhm.
You know, maybe because I didn't care as much about their plot lines, but I just feel like they haven't been focused on as much as previous seasons.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, it sort of makes sense. The show is supposed to be more about Dexter and more from his point of view, but I think they're even more in the background.
Mhm. I'd say definitely Angel and Maria. I think Deb and Quinn had their fair share this season. Considering,
Think so?
know, yeah, I mean, considering all the Santa Muerte stuff and all those, I mean, in terms of screen time, definitely, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm not remembering other seasons that well or something, but I feel like the Angel Maria kind of thing, they definitely seem to have less stuff going on. You know, they kind of got paired up story-wise, so they kind of don't have a lot, but yeah, again, more guest stars this season, so
Right.
That takes screen time away, so
It does. Yeah, I feel like that's sort of where that stuff shifted. I remember a few seasons ago we get like a whole episode almost that was like more focused on Angel.
Mhm.
And that really doesn't happen these days.
Well, yeah, he's not gonna get a whole episode, but he got the whole I'm my wife's honor storyline.
Right. Yeah. I mean they're doing a few things. Angel and Maria get at least one scene per episode where they, fight or make up.
Mhm. And then fight again.
And then fight again. It's all a bit tedious, really. I feel like the marriage just isn't working out. And they should both move on. But what do I know?
Well, you're a quitter, aren't you?
Yeah. Just give it up.
Give it up, guys.
Oh, that's another thing I meant to mention. You were right about...
Don't forget to mention when I'm right. Come on.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize. The club shootout, Angel supporting Deborah, did not matter at all, except for Deborah and Angel's relationship, friendship.
Yeah.
Because they just believed Maria's story. It's on the record, but that's it.
I love how not only did it not matter, but he specifically says it didn't matter.
Yeah, right. It was almost exactly what you said on the podcast, so
yeah,
I have to throw it out there.
It's almost like I wrote that episode.
Yeah.
But I didn't, because they didn't pay me for it. I don't have the check to prove it. So.
Oh, okay.
I did.
Okay. You did not use
I got right, so.
Pseudonym or something. Okay.
No. My name is not Chip Joe Janssen.
Okay.
Did I pronounce that right? I don't know.
Johansson, I think.
Oh, okay. Simple pronunciation.
A little bit.
I was trying to do the more Nordic way, the more Norwegian.
I see. Fair enough.
Yeah, this season's been fairly okay. I mean, it's hard to compete with last season, I think, for a lot of reasons, but it's still, I never really got that bored. Some of the stuff in the beginning was a little, but it picked up, like every Dexter episode, season pretty much picked up in the middle, and it's generally pretty good till the very end. So
yeah,
it's been pretty consistent with that.
Yeah. I think there's been 2 episodes I thought were really good. A lot of good moments. I liked where it started, and then I liked some of the build-up. And in general, I'm happy about where the show is right now. I just think, but it's a little unfair because it's not quite over yet. And depending on what they do with the last 2 episodes, I feel like it stands a chance of, I doubt it's going to compete with season 4 for the ending. But I think it can compete with season 4 for sort of everything before that, depending on how they handle the final bit. Because I think that's the thing that makes season 4 so memorable. It has a fantastic ending, and no question about that.
Yeah.
So, I don't think they can outdo that. I don't think there's any way they will.
Yeah, I can't imagine they will. It'll just be... I think it's just going to be a wrap-up ending.
Yeah. And the thing I'm really dreading is the whole, I learned some things and some things happened and blah, 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 Dark Passenger, blah, 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 Harry, but now everything's back to normal and end of season and we can just start from square one next season. A kind of season 2, season 3-esque ending. I really don't want that, but I'm kind of expecting it.
So what do you think? Lumen dies or she goes home at the end of the season?
Right now I'm leaning towards Lumen goes home. Lumen decides she wants to leave this stuff behind her. She's not...
Well, it'll be pretty easy when it's all wrapped up and taken care of.
Right.
So she should be able to go.
Yes. But, I mean, she doesn't want to, stay with Dexter. She doesn't just want to kill people who are bad. She specifically wanted revenge on people who hurt her.
Yeah.
That's where I see it right now. I think there's a chance that she dies, but right now I don't think they're going to kill her. What do you have?
I agree. I don't think they're going to kill her at all. I think it's a little too much to kill her after they killed Rita, and so it's just a little too much, I think. Yeah. I mean, how is Dexter going to start next season? 2 of the women he grew close to, the most recently, just got killed by the guys that he was after. It's just a little bit too much, I think.
You're right. I didn't even think about that. That's more reason to think she won't die.
You think Jordan dies?
Yes.
Jordan dies. Okay.
I definitely think Jordan dies.
He doesn't somehow get away?
No.
Okay.
No. I'll say this: if Jordan doesn't die, I will be extremely surprised. I would put it 99% Jordan dies.
Mhm.
Do you think he might not die?
I think he'll die, but I'm not 99% sure.
Okay. I'm so confident. Every season ends with the villain dying. The pattern is too consistent.
Until they change the pattern. But yeah.
That's why I would be shocked.
Yeah. It makes sense if he dies. That's what should happen.
Now, what about Liddy? I guess you offered earlier a couple of paths where he could actually live.
Yeah, I could see him living or dying. I think he's a tertiary character, so it doesn't really matter. I think, I don't know. Somehow I feel like he gets away. I think they'll just deal with the evidence maybe or something, and he's just sort of not a threat anymore.
Okay. I kind of don't want him to die, but partially just because I like the character, but also, he's not an evil mastermind like Jordan Chase is. So, I just don't feel the compulsion that he needs to die for what he's doing.
I just don't see Dexter killing Liddy.
I don't either.
I feel like he's got too much going on and too much catch up to do to even get to the place to realize he needs to kill Liddy. So maybe it'll be something where Quinn kills Liddy or gets him out of the picture.
Yeah.
Quinn, because next episode Quinn has got to learn that Liddy used his signature to requisition cameras.
That's true. Yeah.
So he's going to learn that, and he's going to find out that Liddy's still pursuing Dexter. Then he's going to track him down, and then Liddy will tell him what evidence he has, and then
Quinn has already openly threatened him.
Mm-hmm.
So they're at that stage already. So I think that makes sense. That thing's escalating. That's probably got to come to something.
Yeah.
So that's a good alternative thing. I put the chances at about 50% Liddy dies.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very possible, but not necessary.
What do you think are the chances that he doesn't die? What percent?
42%.
Oh, okay. Well, what's that 8% that's missing? Like, you're unsure, or is that undecided, or?
Yeah. Status unknown.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to assume that the other percent was just 50, because you never know.
Yeah, no, that was a good thing not to assume.
You know what they say when you don't assume?
What?
It's a good thing. You just said it.
Oh, okay. Wow. I didn't think what they say is what I said.
Yeah. Aren't you they?
No, I'm not they.
Are you sure? How would you know? Liddy is a they everyone's been talking about this whole time.
That's me?
Anytime they do something, it's you.
You know what they say. That's me? Wow.
Yeah, it sounds like the beginning of a weird story. This guy realizes, wait a minute.
I'm they.
I'm they? The powers that be is me? What? Liddy, what do you think the chances Dexter's going to die?
0.
Okay. What do you think the chances he's going to live?
99.
Nice. Who else? Who else might be on the chopping block? Anybody else?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I guess Manzone could die, since I don't really know what she's doing.
Manzone, what are you doing besides making life horrible for Deb?
Yeah. I don't necessarily want her to die, but She seems expendable.
Mhm. You know, she is. You know, she's the the cornerstone of the whole Santa Muerte case.
Yeah.
So if it's going to come back, I feel like she's got to be involved with it. So maybe the fact that she's upstairs now, she's up with homicide, maybe that'll, maybe she'll feel guilty about what she did with Deb, and she'll come to her next episode and say that she. I mean, this will really mess with the storyline, but something like she tracked down the last guy or something, or I just feel like they need one more thing with the Santa Muerte. They need to put that to bed. I don't think they really did a good job with that.
Yeah.
It feels like it's still hanging out there to me.
Oh, well, I agree. I mean, they do have one of the brothers still at large, so it's not exactly closed.
Mhm.
And I think also, as you pointed out, I think off the podcast, although you might have said it on the podcast too, that it would be nice for them to actually explain why the Santa Muerte stuff.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Why did they do that? Because as it stands now, it seems like there really isn't an explanation. They just did it for show or something to intimidate people.
Mhm. Yeah, it's pretty weird.
It's really weird. I guess especially because in previous seasons, like the details of a serial killer's method were focused on so much. So when they show that, you really expect that to matter.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't think much real. The only thing that helps them with the details of the killing was the beheadings. They knew it was a machete. The Santa Muerte ornaments and paraphernalia. They tracked that to the store.
Right.
And then they got a partial cigar or something, or that whole cigar thing.
Oh,
something like that. But it all was just to lead them to the club, which she just happened to see a picture of and goes, oh, okay, the tattoo is from the club, is a stamp from the club, and that leads them to the club. And
right.
It's a very long, convoluted sequence of events.
Yeah, it is.
Just to get Deb in a file room. for half a day.
To pick up the first file she sees.
The first file she sees, and yeah.
Discover something important.
I just wish it was something simple like when she comes down there and she's talking to the filing clerk lady, and the lady goes, okay, let me get you to work. Here's all the recent cases that need filing. And what's one of the most recent cases? The one they just worked on. So it'd be on top. I'm fine with that. It's just a little attention to detail that makes some of that stuff work a little bit better. And not, it's just sitting on the file cabinet, it's the first thing she sees. And,
right.
Yeah.
Whatever. Then it feels even more contrived than it already is.
Yeah. Like, make the effort, guys. Come on.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
Not. I just did it.
You just did it. How hard can it be?
How hard can it be?
Well, hopefully they're listening and they can make adjustments.
I assume the writers of Dexter listen to this podcast.
Yeah, so I've always assumed that.
Yeah. How else will they know when they're wrong?
Exactly.
Ouch. Podcaster has claws.
Indeed.
All right. Well, anything else?
Make sure I don't miss anything. No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, until next time, we'll be back with the last 2 episodes of season 5, and hopefully they're awesome.
I'm excited for them. Particularly the one before the last one is usually really good.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm ready for it.
All right. Well, we'll catch you guys next podcast.
See you later.